In this video, we're going to restore this Mark I Morris Mini steering wheel. So I actually purchased this off, I think it might have been Gumtree. That's the Australian version of Craigslist if you're American, and I don't know what they have in the UK. So it's second-hand, obviously, and in order to purchase this, because like during the restrictions, like you had to sort of meet up in a supermarket car park, and then obviously do some supermarket shopping, and then quickly exchange goods for money, and then we're on our way. So that's how I sort of picked up that one. I'm probably not going to use the actual Mark I rack. The advantage of using that is that the horn button will work rather than on the stick. Maybe that's something I'll do at a later stage, and it's more of the case of actually just getting this steering wheel restored, and I might not actually use it in the car, but just to get it restored, just so I've got it in case I ever do. And then of course that's a Mark I indicator stick. So the green light flashes on the end when you use the indicator, but the way I've got mine wired up, because I'm using the newer version Speedo, I don't know if you can see in there without the windows, but it has two orange lights on it, and they're my indicators for left and right. Okay, so I think we'll get started on this. So the first stage of restoring it will be to fix up any cracks, and if you've ever owned one of these, you'll notice that they all seem to have a crack along here where that screw hole is. So the way that needs to be filled, rather than just using auto body filler, you need to use, so I did a little bit of research, looked at other people restoring these. They seem to use araldite or an epoxy resin to fill up that, because you want something that will expand and contract. So normal body filler will eventually crack and then just fall out. So that's what I'm going to try just doing up today. And then of course there will be a few different imperfections, like there's a bit of a chunk taken out of it here. So that will need filling. And then we'll see how we go, because it is pretty rough, but it just depends on what the finish needs to be like. Without having one in excellent condition to compare how it should look, it's a bit of a just do it how I think, and then we'll wait and see. Even the colouring, I don't know how glossy this should be, whether it should just be a matte finish, because I don't think they're meant to be very shiny, but I could be wrong. I still need to do a bit more research, but we're not up to that stage yet anyway. So it's more of the case of just filling in any imperfections and any creases that we need to get rid of. Alright, so one tip I saw on the internet is that if you use masking tape, that'll prevent the actual epoxy resin just flowing straight out of any crack you fill up. So the issue is that the actual glue won't stick to the tape. So if I was to just put a piece here at the back here, actually I'll put it this way. So that will prevent any of the epoxy resin just flowing all the way through. And I'll probably want to fill up that, so I'll need to put a bit of tape on the inside of that piece too. Alright, so this epoxy resin, you got to mix it in 2 parts. So it works by a chemical reaction. So once you get part A and part B squirted out, equal amounts of both, and then I'll just give it a bit of a mix. And you'll notice it's pretty runny, so that's why we're going to have issues that might drip out. And hopefully the masking tape prevents that. So I just need to hold it at an angle which is good for me, but I don't know. I don't want to bump my phone. If I move you back a bit, then you'll be able to watch too. Okay, well you can't really see much anyway, but there's a crack there and I'm filling the crack. Because you want this to be runny enough to get in there, You have to just keep rubbing it around to make sure it starts to go in there. Okay, we'll just leave that to dry and then see how it looks. Okay, so it's the next day now. Let's just take a look. I just noticed that the glue that's left on here, it is a little bit. It's not really sticky in some spots, but it might just be because it's the way it's mixed. But we'll have a look at this and just see how this has turned out. Alright, doesn't seem to be too bad. Find something to scrape that out, but you can sort of see it's got all the way in there, so it's filled up that crack nicely. Of course there's some residue on here, but that can be filed down, so I'll give that a bit of a file down, and then we'll take a look at getting this little smaller crack done. So this is just a bit of 240 grit paper. I definitely don't want to use a file just yet, because I don't want to take down too much. That seems to just smooth it up nicely. Okay, so that's sanded down nicely. What I need to do now is just get this other little fine crack filled. I don't know what might be best. I could either make that crack bigger and then fill it, or just try and fill it as it is. I might just try and fill it as it is first, because if it doesn't work, I can always grind it down, make a V-shaped valley in there, and then add some more, but we'll sort out that one. Okay, so the next thing I want to sort of get started on is the horn button piece. You notice that there's a few chips in there. So the way I'm going to fix those up is in a similar way. I'm going to put the tape on this side, and what I want to be able to do, so if you stick that on, and you can sort of start curving it to get the correct shape, and you sort of want to just get glue or this epoxy adhesive into those little bits here, build up the layer, and then we can sort of sand it back down. So if it sits like that, just get a few bits of glue into there and just leave it sitting. The other thing, I'll glue this piece back in as well while I'm in there. Hopefully I can get that in there. So let's get those sorted. Okay, so this has been drying for a while, so I'll just show you how that's turned out. That looks pretty good. Alright, so this part here where it had the chip in the edge, you can see it's filled in nicely. So I'm just going to use these clippers just to clip off and trim off the excess. I'm not going to go too far in there, just to get it near enough the right sort of shape. And what I want to do now, I'm just going to file it. So using this pretty small file, and it files down pretty quickly. So I don't want to be too aggressive with it. That's looking pretty good, and I'll finish it off with sandpaper. The other thing I need to do is just sort of file these bits down like that. And then we'll just finish it off with some sandpaper. Alright, one issue I've got sort of at the moment, can you see this sort of the texture in there? I don't know how well you can see that. Let me just focus this. There we go. Kind of looks like a dog's nose. So that's all like the plastic paint that's on there originally. So you just need to sand that down a bit more, because I reckon if I paint over that, that's going to come through and look like shrink back. So I was doing a 240. I'm just going down to the 120 now. Alright, so what you can notice, you might notice sort of this like residue sort of stuff all over it. And in order to get all this off, the most effective method I found, I'm spraying it with Prepsol, wax and grease remover, and then just rubbing it with a bit of steel wool. I find that seems to be the easiest way to get all of that dried plastic and all that crap off it. Alright, so we're actually going to attempt to get some paint on this today. First thing I need to do is, I'm just going to mask off inside here, because I don't really want paint on all of that centerpiece. It's going to have a pole shoved in there anyway when it gets painted, so it's more of the case of just masking this edge here, and then on the other side, of course, inside there too. This can all probably get paint on, it's not going to matter. Alright, so I've got these parts masked up. I'll just give them a spray down with wax and grease remover before we get started, and I'll just show you the paint I'm using, because I've just got stuff left over. I just want to use this one. So it's actually a 1K primer, but it is 2K compatible, and then I'm going to thin that down with just enamel thinners, because that's what it needs to use. And the ratio, I'm doing 2 parts paint to 1 part thinners. So I'll set up the GoPro and then we'll have a look at this get done. I'll just show you the gun. I'm just going to give this one a go. It's a small gun. It's designed for touch up. I got this from Super Cheap Auto, so it's not spectacular, but there's a few parts I've been playing around with respraying. It works all right for a little job, and because it's smaller, it works a lot better with the compressor. So that's what I'm going to use. So that's the first coat of on that, and looks okay, not too bad. There's a couple of spots where I can see where I'm going to need to possibly fill in sand just to get it nice and spot on perfect. There's the horn button, looks alright. Alright, so we'll leave that there and then let that sit and dry. Probably for a good 24 hours before I light sand, wet sand, it will turn out better. And then fill any bits and then give it another coat of primer. Okay, it's time to get painting. So steering wheel's had like a couple of coats of primer. It's been sanded back with 600. I'll just show you the paint I'm going to use. The colour I got is Empress Black, and this is a pre-mixed, comes in the tin already mixed. That's a 2K solid, so it's likely we won't need to clear coat over the top of that, but it just depends on how it turns out. That's going to be mixed with the hardener at a ratio of 2 to 1. So I'll start off, I'll just mix up 200 mils first of paint plus the hardener, see how we go. The thinners, 2K thinners will be added, about 5%. See how we go with that. And hopefully that goes okay. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so it's turned out quite well. It's nice, thick and glossy. Doesn't seem to be any major issues with it. So what we're going to do is start getting it put back together now. So here's a final walk around of how it looks. I haven't pushed the centre cap fully on yet because I don't want it to, well, once it's installed we can push that on. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to see how to restore one of these steering wheels. Maybe you'll give it a shot yourself. I'm impressed with how it's turned out. It doesn't look too bad at all. Alright, I'll leave it there, and thanks for watching my videos.